Toma, a level 0 Esper living in Academy City, has a unique ability that allows him to nullify psychic, magical, and divine powers. While running from the thugs, he meets Misaka Mikoto, a powerful level 5 psychic capable of controlling and generating electricity. She helps our boy to deal with the thugs but taunts him for being level 0. When Toma tells her to chill out, she attacks him only for her attack to get nullified to her surprise. The next morning, Toma wakes up to find a young nun from the Church of England hanging off his balcony. Introducing herself as Index, she reveals that she is being chased by magicians because she has 103,000 grimoires. Toma questions the authenticity of her story and asks her to provide proof by performing magic. However, she's unable to because she has no mana. Toma tells her that magic does not exist. However, the supernatural truly exists, as Academy City is the home of Espers, people who have supernatural abilities, and tells her that he himself has a supernatural ability on his right hand, which he states can cancel any supernatural occurrences, even divine things. Index, irritated by his beliefs, tells him her outfit is named the Walking Church, a magical item that protects her from harm. She runs to the kitchen, grabs a sharp knife, and tells him to stab her, and it will not hurt her. Toma promptly rejects the offer and notes that if it really is magic, his right hand will dispel its abilities. In response, Index teases that it will happen only if his power is authentic. Irritated at her, he accepts her challenge and touches her robes, and for a few seconds, nothing happens. However, this eventually rips apart her clothes, making her naked. Later, after fixing her robe by using clothing pins, Index tries to leave as she believes magicians are closing in on her. Toma, being hospitable, tells her that she is allowed to stay in his apartment if she wanted, however she refuses. Index later leaves, as well as Toma, as he has remedial classes to attend to. Toma has a conversation with his friends Aogami and Motoharu on how Komoya, their teacher, likes him and how Toma is lucky enough to spend time with her. While returning home, Toma encounters Mikoto once again, where she demands another fight against him. He simply ignores her. She, however, makes him notice her by pounding her foot on the ground, which causes an electric surge on nearby electrical equipment. This causes Toma to complain about her using her powers that cause him great inconvenience, and why she has always attacked him even though he has laid not a single finger on her. Their conversation later ends abruptly as security robots reactivate and pursue them, prompting them to run away. He later returns home to see that Index is on the ground surrounded by several cleaning robots in front of his apartment door. However, he soon learns that Index is severely injured and is bleeding profusely. Toma wonders who did this to her, when a man with red hair and long black robe appears before him, telling him that it was their doing. The magician tells him that his partner did not intend to injure her, as the Walking Church is supposed to protect Index. Toma asks why they did this to her, and the magician states that she contains within her brain the 103,000 volumes of grimoire and needed to recover and protect it. This enrages Toma and he tries to attack the magician, but he simply dodges it. Style then summons flames into his hands and uses it to attack Toma. However, he surprises Style as he is left unscathed by his attack. Style realizes that Toma was the one who destroyed Index's Walking Church. Knowing this, he chants a spell and summons Innocentius, the witch-hunting pope. At that moment, Index speaks. She tells them those mystical runes that were applied in the building. Toma asks her if she is Index, to which she answers that indeed that she is Index, and right now she is in John's pen mode. Style uses Toma's preoccupation in blocking Innocentius to attack, which prompts Toma to retreat and run. Toma later finds the area where Style applied the runes. However, his discovery is cut short after Innocentius continues his pursuit on him, and he once again retreats. He fumbles and falls several stories into a roof shed and then on several bicycles. Toma realizes that Innocentius can only move in the area where the runes were applied and uses the opportunity to try and contact help. Back in the apartment, Style tries to recover Index, but is later surprised to see the sprinkler system activated. He is enraged that Toma has gotten him wet for nothing, as Innocentius will still be able to survive in the wet environment. Toma returns to the apartment and states to Style on how he would have won if he instead engraved the rune markings on the wall instead of sticking them on paper. He is enraged for a moment after thinking that Innocentius has been defeated. However, he smiles as Innocentius returns and orders it to kill Toma. However, Innocentius soon dissipates after Toma uses his right hand on it. Toma tells to a surprised Style that even if the paper could not be washed away, the ink will. Style is shaken by this and tries to use another fire attack on him. However, Toma charges towards him and knocks him out with a single punch to the face. After the battle, members of Anti-Skill barricade the perimeter around Toma's apartment to let the fire department do their duties and to keep civilians out of the way. We see Mikoto in the crowd wondering what's going on when a girl named Kuroko, who calls Mikoto Oni-sama, runs up to her. Kuroko states that the fire may be Esper-related. Meanwhile, Toma rests Index on a bench and asks her if she has any magical books inside her head that can heal her injury. Index explains the origins of magic to Toma. She tells him that magic was not meant for Espers, as it was intended for the people who wanted the abilities like those of Espers. Toma realizes that there are no students in Academy City that could help Index. Toma visits Komoe's apartment, where he barges in after she opens the door. Toma lays Index down on the tatami mat. Index glows and returns to John's pen mode. Index states that she is in critical condition and asks them to follow her instructions carefully. Toma asks Komoe to take care of Index and leaves after Index tells him that his right hand will negate the magic that will be performed in the room. On a tower that overlooks the city, a woman with long hair holding a long sword is calmly observing him. Index later gets up and creates a pentagram inside a circle surrounded by symbols with her own blood. She asks Komoe about the video game memory card and tells her to put it on the middle of the table. Later, it is revealed to be used as a miniature model of the room they are in. Index then tells Komoe to imagine a beautiful angel. Komoe tries her best at imagining a form of an angel and is successful at doing so. The angel disappears and the glow from the table disappears as well. Index remarks that the healing is successful and comes out of her John's pen mode. Toma later takes care of Index, where they discuss of the dangers of using magic and where she tells Toma of the burden she is carrying. She tells Toma that she is from the Church of Necessary Evil or Necessarius, a religious organization that hunted witches because they were using magic and was considered evil. But the church needed magic as well to hunt them down, and as such they became the church they are today. Also, the reason why the church implanted the 103,000 grimoires into Index was to have them gathered into one spot and reverse engineer them, so they can neutralize any type of magic. Meanwhile, Style and the long-haired magician are observing them. The long-haired girl remarks that Toma is neither a magician nor an Esper and cannot explain the mystery of his right hand. A few days later during nighttime, Index and Toma are traveling towards a bathhouse. She states that she has no memories prior to coming to Japan, though she has memories of the fact that her name is Index and that she has grimoires inside of her head and the name of her church. They later get into an argument which makes Index bite her and run away. Toma is later seen trying to search for Index. However, when he gets into an intersection, he notices that everybody has disappeared for no apparent reason. Suddenly, Kanzaki appears before him and tells him that it is a room that specializes in removing people in an area except them. She then introduces herself to Toma as Kanzaki. She mentions that she'd rather not mention her other name, her magic name, and requests Toma to hand Index over before she does so. Toma asks what happens if he refuses, to which Kanzaki demonstrates by showing off her power and cutting off one of the blades of a wind turbine. Kanzaki repeats to Toma that she wishes to secure Index. However, Toma answers to her that he has no reason to give up. This dismays Kanzaki and demonstrates a powerful attack on Toma. Toma charges towards Kanzaki, however, she uses her Nanasin and repels him. Toma tries to get up once more, which surprises Kanzaki and attacks Toma again with Nanasin. Toma charges through her attack and tries to cancel it, however, he realizes that it is not disappearing and injures his arm. He notices that there are ultra-thin wires that surround them, and she moving them using her katana and realizes that she is not using magic. Toma tries to grab one of the wires, which forces Kanzaki to hit him with the scabbard of her sword and kicking him to the ground. Kanzaki tells him that Index was her friend and that she did not mean harm to her. She tells him that if they cannot secure Index, then Index will not be able to live. She tells Toma that since Index has the ability to perfectly memorize anything, she cannot forget any unnecessary memories needed for her brain keep functioning. Toma asks why Index calls Kanzaki and Style evil, even when they are from the same church. Kanzaki replies that Index has no memory that they are members of the same church, and has concluded on her own that Kanzaki and Style are after the 103,000 grimoires inside of her. Kanzaki states that Index did not lose her memory, but in fact was erased by them. Kanzaki states that if they didn't erase her memories, then Index would have died. Since there was no other way, Toma asks Kanzaki when the next memory deletion will take place. Kanzaki says that the next one will occur in 3 days. Toma rebukes Kanzaki for giving up easily on Index, but she shouts at him that he does not understand their own feelings of presenting themselves as enemies to Index. She proceeds to attack Toma several times while shouting how they tried to keep making memories with her even though she will always forget. Even then, Toma still states that they are wrong, they did not think about Index at all. With Kanzaki shaken because of Toma's speech, Style returns and asks if she is finished, to which she simply nodded, and then Style removes the barrier. Meanwhile, Mikoto and Kuroko come out of a store after some shopping and notice the blade that was cut from the wind turbine. While waiting for Kuroko, Mikoto notices Index in the crowd, seemingly searching for something. Toma wakes up in the Tsukuyomi residence being taken care of Index. However, Toma realizes that 3 days has gone by since he was attacked by Kanzaki and realizes that Index still has her memories. Index later tries to serve food for Toma, which she fails spectacularly, before being interrupted by someone at the door. It is revealed that it is Kanzaki and Style who are on the front door and have arrived to take away Index. However, Index, thinking that they would hurt Toma, again offers herself to them and asks them to stop hurting Toma anymore. Komoya leaves Toma and Index alone for the entire evening. Toma recalls earlier on how both Style and Kanzaki willingly left them as they would return later and expecting Toma to not flee with Index. Toma later gets a call from Kanzaki. She tells him that the limit is at midnight and they are preparing their schedule to finish in time. Toma asks if magic can't really solve anything. Kanzaki tells him that the church fears Index rebellion as the holder of the 103,000 grimoires. As such, the church may have done some precautions as so Index would be unable to learn a spell to cure her. Magic can't save Index. However, Toma asks Kanzaki if they are able to do something, the science side. Toma starts researching about memory loss and later realizes that he can ask Komoya to introduce him to neurological or mental research institutes. He tries to contact Komoya, but she is busy enjoying her bath and cannot get to her phone. Toma realizes that it is already midnight and Index has begun breathing heavily. Kanzaki and Style arrives to erase Index of her memories. Style shows Toma a magical cross that is necessary for deleting her memory and challenges Toma to dispel the magic within it if he is capable of saving her without erasing her memories. Toma is, however, unable to do it, and Style leaves to continue the ceremony in erasing her memories. Toma, in despair, asks them to allow him to say his goodbyes to her. Index notices the symbol drawn by Style on the wall for the ceremony, making Index worry. However, Toma calms her down and apologizes to her, and says that he will become stronger and never lose again to those who have made her this way. Toma continues to reprimand himself for failing to save her after she falls asleep. However, he becomes suspicious of the information regarding Index's brain. Because of the suspicion behind the information regarding Index's brain, he calls Komoya again and asks her about perfect memorization and the information that he was told. She tells Toma the human brain will not deteriorate if it can perfectly memorize anything and can in fact store 140 years worth of memory. She concludes that it is impossible in neurology for the brain to break down, no matter how much knowledge is in it. Now knowing that Index shouldn't even suffer with the knowledge inside her mind, he concludes that the church lied to Style and Kanzaki and tampered with Index's body as so she would deteriorate if her memories were not erased every year. As such, Index, who possesses the 103,000 grimoires, would be incapable of betraying them. Determined to save Index, Toma removes the bandages from his hand and touches Index's forehead, hoping to dispel something, though there was no reaction. However, he notices a strange symbol embedded inside Index's mouth. Toma inserts his middle finger into Index's mouth, touching the symbol and dispels it. Index rises and charges towards him, causing an explosion which alerts Kanzaki and Style. A machine like Index speaks before them in monotonic fashion. She constructs a weapon from one of the 103,000 grimoires she has in her possession, a weapon that is the most effective against Toma. Toma, Style, and Kanzaki confront John's pen mode Index, who is ready to attack Toma. Suddenly, she glows brightly and twitches uncontrollably before firing a beam of energy towards Toma, who manages to block it with his right hand. Meanwhile, Style and Kanzaki are confounded about how Index is able to perform magic. Toma tells them that the church lied to them. Toma explains that the church wouldn't let members from the lower echelons of the church know the entire truth behind Index. Index, having seen that St. George Sanctuary is ineffective against Toma, uses a much more powerful beam of energy on Toma. Because of the immense power of her attack, Toma's right hand nearly succumbs to its power. However, Style comes in and states his magic name, applying a large amount of runic cards on the walls of Komoya's apartment. He supports Toma and vows to protect Index's life no matter what. He asks Style if he wants to save Index and tells them that this was their chance to start anew, where they don't need to erase her memories, where they don't need to act like her enemies, where everyone is happy and had achieved the best possible ending. While saying this, his hand begins to yield against the power of Index's attack. However, he is saved by Kanzaki, who has invoked her magic name. She uses her sword and wire technique to trip Index, who is still firing her beam. As Index falls backward, the beam points skyward, destroying Komoya's roof and his satellite in orbit. Index returns to attack Toma, but is caught unprepared by Style's summoning of Inokentius, which protects Toma so that he can charge towards Index. Whilst charging towards Index, she successfully reverse engineers Inokentius and manages to upgrade St. George's Sanctuary against it. However, Toma is able to reach Index in time and successfully destroys the spell. As such, St. George's sanctuary is dispelled and Index reverts to normal. The next day, Index is holding a letter given to her by a frog-faced doctor in a certain hospital. The doctor tells Index that the letter that she is holding is from Kanzaki and Style, which was intended for Toma. The letter reveals that the church ordered them to retrieve Index, but after Style and Kanzaki questioned them of the truth about the church lying to them, they suddenly changed their minds and allowed the continuation of the status quo. The letter states that even though Index is allowed to stay with Toma, that doesn't mean they will not come back to retrieve her and will return once they have gathered proper equipment for the task. The doctor states that Toma will not remember Index, as he had his memories destroyed. The memories are not simply lost, but are gone forever. Index, however, still goes to Toma's room. After seeing his face, she is elated that he is well and runs towards him. But as she approaches, he asks Index who she is, which shocks her. Toma then asks if they are familiar with each other by any chance. She asks Toma if he remembers where they first met, how he destroyed her walking church with his right hand, how he fought magicians for her, and in tears she asks him if he remembered that she loved him. However, it was painfully obvious to Index that he could not remember her. However, Toma surprises Index by saying that it was all a ruse of his. He tells her that since his brain cells were destroyed by magic, he need only to touch his head with his right hand, now called Imagine Breaker, to negate the effect and restore his memories. Index at first collapses in relief that his memories had not been taken, but her feelings quickly turn into fury that he had fooled her and caused her to confess her feelings, and she punishes him by biting him. She then storms out of his hospital room, just as the doctor is coming in. When the doctor questions Toma's actions, Toma reveals to him that he truly has no recollection of Index, and that his power was unable to retain any of his memories. Toma tells the doctor the reason he lied to Index. He just didn't want her to cry. 2 weeks have passed since the destruction of the tree diagram. Style visits a person floating upside down. Style calls him Crowley, and Crowley tells him the reason he was recalled back to Academy City. Their conversation is connected to a term called deep blood, with the situation surrounding it becoming complicated. Crowley tells Style that the person who carries deep blood is currently imprisoned, and that magicians have become involved with the situation, even though they are normally allowed into the city. To protect the balance between the magic and the science side, Crowley tells Style that the city will not become involved with the situation with deep blood, and suggests to him to use the natural enemy of magicians, who Crowley has in his possession, Imagine Breaker Toma. Before leaving, Style asks if deep blood truly exists, and if so, would it imply that the organism the ability can kill should also exist, the organisms known as vampires. Crowley goes on to comment that if deep blood proves the existence of vampires, then whose existence will the Imagine Breaker prove? The end of part 1. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to not miss the next part.